My parents cut my hair while I was asleep, so I would look less pretty. The morning I didn't recognize myself. The first thing I noticed was the cold. Not the weather, but my neck. I reached up half asleep, fingers brushing skin that should have been warm with curls. My hand froze. Something was wrong. My heart started beating faster as I sat up in bed, confusion crawling up my spine. My hair. It was gone. Not shaved clean. Not styled. Cut. Uneven. Jagged. Ruined. I ran to the mirror across the room. What stared back at me didn't feel like me. My curls, my soft, full shoulder-length curls that people always noticed first, were hacked into an awkward, choppy mess. Tears filled my eyes instantly. No, 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 I whispered. I hadn't cut it. I knew that. I hadn't even gone to bed with scissors near me. My door had been locked when I slept, but my parents had a key. They always did. My chest tightened. I wrapped myself in a hoodie and stepped into the hallway. The house was quiet. Too quiet. My mother was in the kitchen. Making coffee. As if nothing had happened. I stood in the doorway, shaking. "Mom," I said softly. "What happened to my hair?" She didn't turn around right away. She stirred her coffee slowly, deliberately. When she finally looked at me, her eyes held no surprise. No guilt. Only resolve. "We fixed it," she said. My stomach dropped. "Fixed it. You were becoming too noticeable," she continued. "Too full of yourself. Boys were starting to look. People were talking." My hands trembled. "You cut my hair while I was asleep?" My father entered the kitchen then. He leaned against the counter, arms crossed. "You're 16, he said. "You don't need to be attracting attention." Tears spilled down my face. It was my hair. My mother sighed like I was the problem. "Beauty can make girls careless," she said. "We're protecting you." Protecting me. By stealing something that made me feel like myself. At school that day, I kept my hoodie up. People noticed anyway. Whispers followed me through the hallway. What happened to her hair? She used to be so pretty. Did she do that on purpose? I skipped lunch and hid in the bathroom, staring at my reflection again and again, trying to understand how something so personal could be taken so easily. My hair had always been my shield. When I felt invisible at home, it made me visible to myself. Now it was gone. And with it, something inside me cracked. It was my English teacher, Ms. Randall, who finally noticed. She pulled me aside after class. "You okay?" I shook my head. The words came out before I could stop them. "They cut my hair while I was asleep." Her face changed instantly. Not anger, recognition. "That's not discipline," she said gently. "That's control." She helped me talk to the school counselor. For the first time, an adult listened without justifying it. For the first time, someone said, "What happened to you wasn't okay." And that mattered more than I expected. My parents were furious when the school called. "You embarrassed us," my father snapped that night. "No," I said quietly, voice shaking but steady. "You embarrassed me." The room went silent. I had never spoken to them like that before. My mother stared at me, shocked, not by my pain, but by my courage. "You think hair defines you?" she asked coldly. "No," I replied. "But the fact that you had to take it from me says everything." That night, I locked my door and cried, not just for my hair, but for the childhood I was realizing had always been controlled. Months passed. My hair started growing again, but something else grew too. Boundaries. I stopped shrinking. Stopped apologizing for existing. Stopped trying to be smaller to make them comfortable. I joined a spoken word club. Wrote poems about identity. About black girlhood. About being punished for beauty instead of protected for humanity. People listened. I started listening to myself. The day I turned 18, I packed my bags. My mother watched from the doorway. "You're making a mistake," she said. "No," I replied. "I'm making a choice." I touched my hair. Short, natural, growing proudly. For the first time, I added, I own myself. College was freedom. No locked doors. No scissors in the dark. I learned to love my reflection again. Not because of how I looked, but because I knew who I was. My hair grew thick, healthy, unapologetic. So did my confidence. Years later, I shared my story online. It went viral. Girls wrote to me from everywhere. My parents did this too. I thought I was alone. "Thank you for saying it wasn't okay." I realized then, they didn't just cut my hair. They tried to cut my power. They failed. Today, I stand in front of a mirror. Older, stronger, whole. My hair falls freely around my shoulders. But even if it didn't, I would still be beautiful. Because beauty that depends on permission was never beauty at all. And no one, not even parents, has the right to take your identity while you sleep. The call came on a Tuesday evening. I almost didn't answer. "Hello," I said cautiously. It was my mother. Her voice sounded different, smaller, tired. "I watched your video," she said. I didn't respond. "I didn't know it would follow you like that," she continued. "I didn't know it would hurt you this deeply." I closed my eyes. "You didn't want to know," I said quietly. Silence stretched between us. "We were afraid," she finally admitted. "Afraid you'd be hurt. Afraid you'd leave us behind." I exhaled slowly. "So you hurt me first?" She had no answer. That was the moment I understood something important. An explanation is not the same as an apology. I met my parents months later. Public place, neutral ground. My father avoided my eyes. "You look confident," he said. "I am," I replied. My mother reached for my hand. I gently pulled back. "I forgive you," I said. "But forgiveness doesn't mean you get the same access to me." They looked confused. "You broke my trust," I continued. "Trust doesn't grow back just because hair does." My father swallowed hard. "I didn't know I was teaching you shame," he said. "You were," I replied. "But I'm unlearning it." For a long time, I avoided relationships. Not because I didn't want love, but because control disguised as care terrified me. Then I met Marcus. He noticed my boundaries and respected them. He never commented on my body like it was public property. Never told me how to look to be safe. One night he said, "You know, you don't owe the world smallness." I smiled. I learned that the hard way. In 2025, I launched a non-profit. Consent Begins at Home. Workshops for parents. Safe spaces for teens. Conversations about autonomy, especially for Black girls whose bodies are too often policed under the excuse of protection. I told my story again and again, not to relive the pain, but to reframe it. What was done to me was not love, but what I built from it was. They attended one of my workshops quietly. No interruptions. No defensiveness. Afterward, my mother cried. "I didn't know how to protect you without controlling you," she said. I nodded. That's the difference between fear and love. She hugged me, not tightly, not possessively, just respectfully. It wasn't a perfect ending, but it was honest. Sometimes I still remember that morning. The shock, the betrayal, the feeling of being robbed in my sleep. But now, when I look in the mirror, I don't just see hair. I see survival. I see a girl who refused to disappear. A woman who reclaimed her body, her voice, her story. They cut my hair so I would look less pretty. But they accidentally taught me something far more powerful. My worth was never in how I looked. It was in how fiercely I chose myself. If someone ever tries to control you in the name of love, question it. If they shame you instead of teaching you, resist it. And if they take something from you without consent, know this: you can grow it back, and you can grow beyond it. You are not too much. You are not wrong, and you never needed permission to be whole.